There's this guy you probably met before, or maybe you are him. He's the one everyone likes because he never causes problems. He shows up when people need help, stays quiet when he disagrees, and apologizes even when he isn't wrong. One night, his friend calls at midnight needing just one more favor. He's exhausted, but he still says yes. At work, a coworker hands him extra tasks because you're so reliable with these things, and he smiles like it's no burden at all. And the girl he cares about tells him, "You're such a sweet guy. I wish more men were like you." But when she needs excitement, edge, or passion, she chooses someone else. Someone who isn't as nice, but who knows how to take up space. And he sits there wondering, why is being good never enough? Why do people treat me like I'm replaceable? This is the kind of man Nietzsche worried about. Not the cruel man, not the arrogant man, but the man who is too kind for his own survival. Nietzsche saw that excessive kindness often isn't virtue. It's a man quietly shrinking himself to fit the expectations of others. He wrote, "The noble soul has reverence for itself," meaning, you can't be good to others when you've stopped respecting your own time, energy, and dignity. But today, many men confuse kindness with self-erasure. They believe being kind means never resisting, never disagreeing, never setting boundaries. They think the more they give, the more others will appreciate them. But the truth is the opposite. People rarely value what doesn't value itself. When you're too kind, people start treating your availability like a public resource. Your silence becomes the space they occupy. Your willingness becomes the tool they rely on. Not out of malice, but because you've taught them that your needs come last. This is where kindness turns into a cage, where politeness becomes the mask you use to hide the parts of yourself that should have been expressed years ago. Nietzsche believed this wasn't kindness at all, but self-betrayal, a quiet surrender disguised as virtue. And here's the darkest part. The overly kind man eventually becomes resentful, not at others, but at himself. Because deep down he knows he didn't lose respect by being good. He lost respect by never standing firm. There is nothing wrong with kindness, but kindness without strength becomes weakness. Kindness without boundaries becomes exploitation. Kindness without self-respect becomes invisibility. A man who chooses kindness is admirable. A man who cannot choose anything else is vulnerable. And the danger begins the moment you start disappearing so others can stay comfortable. Kindness can be noble, but when a man prioritizes others at the cost of himself, it doesn't just affect how people treat him. It changes the way he thinks about himself. Excessive kindness quietly trains the mind to expect compliance and deferment. It teaches a man to measure his worth in how much he gives, not who he is. Over time, his thoughts become centered on others' comfort rather than his own growth. Decisions are filtered through the lens of approval, not integrity. His voice softens, his ambitions shrink, his desires are pushed aside. This is the silent erosion Nietzsche warned about. Virtue without boundaries turns inward, becoming a limitation of the self, not an expression of strength. The man who endlessly gives begins to live in reaction, not creation. He reacts to requests, expectations, and obligations instead of actively shaping his life. Psychologically, this produces two dangers. 1. Invisibility of the self. When a man constantly defers, compromises, and accommodates, his identity becomes diffuse. He loses sight of his priorities, preferences, and personal standards. He no longer recognizes himself in the mirror, only a reflection of what others need him to be. 2. growing resentment. Subconsciously, the mind begins to rebel. Small irritations, overlooked contributions, and repeated compromises accumulate. The man doesn't hate others. He hates the part of himself that's surrendered too easily. This resentment is corrosive, poisoning both happiness and relationships. Nietzsche's statement, "The noble soul has reverence for itself," is a call to preserve that inner authority. A man cannot cultivate meaningful kindness while silently erasing his own principles. True generosity emerges from strength, not self-denial. Excessive kindness may seem virtuous, but it reshapes the mind into obedience, not wisdom; accommodation, not autonomy; invisibility, not presence. The man who cannot assert his limits becomes a shadow of himself. And the moment this internal surrender happens, external respect vanishes almost automatically. Kindness without boundaries does not elevate a man, it confines him. And the longer this pattern continues, the harder it becomes to reclaim the self. So, if excessive kindness erodes a man from the inside, what is the way forward? The first step is awareness. To reclaim yourself, you must recognize the patterns you've allowed. Notice when your generosity is automatic, when your acquiescence comes from fear of conflict rather than choice. A man who never asks himself this question is trapped in habits that feel like virtue, but are really self-erasure. The second step is boundaries. Kindness is not the absence of limits. It is the conscious choice to act without compromising your dignity. When you set boundaries, you are not rejecting others. You are honoring yourself. You are saying, "I exist. My time, my energy, my voice matter." Nietzsche's idea of the noble soul reminds us that self-respect is the foundation of all true virtue. A man who fears to assert himself is not weak because he is kind. He is weak because he has allowed others to define the terms of his life. This is where the balance lies. Strength without cruelty. You can be firm without being harsh. Authority and kindness are not opposites. They are complementary. Presence without submission. You can engage with the world fully without disappearing behind constant compliance. Generosity with selectivity. Giving should be intentional, not habitual. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every need demands your surrender. The awakening comes when you see that respect is earned, not demanded, and that it begins internally. People do not value a man simply for his sacrifices. They value him for the integrity of his choices, the clarity of his mind, and the strength of his character. This is the truth Nietzsche understood. A life built entirely on others' expectations is a life half-lived. Kindness without autonomy is hollow. Patience without boundaries is pain. Generosity without self-respect is exploitation. A man who learns to reclaim his time, his energy, and his voice does not stop being kind. He becomes a force that commands it. He is no longer a shadow in the lives of others. He is fully present, fully alive, and fully respected. The danger of disappearing fades when you stop letting the world dictate your worth. The path forward is not less kindness. It is conscious, deliberate, unyielding self-respect. Because only when a man reveres himself can his kindness truly be noble. Even after a man learns to set boundaries, reclaim his voice, and act with deliberate strength, the effects of past overkindness can linger. Excessive giving, compliance, and silence leave marks, not just on the psyche, but on relationships, habits, and expectations. People around him have been conditioned to assume he is always available. Old patterns die slowly. Some friends, colleagues, and even family may resist the change. They may resent his firmness, confuse it with arrogance, or attempt to draw him back into old roles. This is why self-respect is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. Each no spoken when it matters, each choice made for himself, reinforces the truth Nietzsche emphasized. The noble soul has reverence for itself. Reverence is not selfishness. It is an acknowledgement that your time, energy, and presence are not infinite resources to be drained. It is the understanding that true kindness flows naturally when it is supported by integrity and self-honor. A man who has learned this becomes a force in his own life. He no longer disappears to make others uncomfortable. He does not allow exploitation, even subtle, to slide unchecked. He engages with the world fully, bringing kindness that commands respect, not pity. He understands that his value is inherent, not dependent on others' approval. But this transformation is not easy. It requires facing years of patterns, confronting resentment, and acknowledging the parts of himself that were buried to serve others. It demands patience, courage, and unflinching honesty. The world will test him. There will be pressure to revert, to smile and comply, to sacrifice for the sake of comfort. But each time he stands firm, he strengthens his inner authority. Each act of deliberate self-respect rewrites the script of his life. This is the path Nietzsche encourages, not the path of blind kindness, nor of selfish withdrawal, but the path of conscious virtue, kindness rooted in self-reverence, guided by boundaries, and expressed without surrender. In the end, a man who learns this does more than survive kindness. He masters it, transforms it, and ensures that his life is no longer a shadow for others, but a light that commands attention, respect, and admiration. Because the danger of disappearing fades only when a man refuses to vanish again, and the freedom he gains is profound, permanent, and irreversible. At the end of all the lessons, stories, and warnings, there is one truth that stands above all. A man's life is defined not by what he gives to others, but by what he refuses to give at the cost of himself. We have spent minutes exploring the danger of disappearing for others, of letting kindness turn into self-erasure, of letting patience, compliance, and generosity be mistaken for weakness. We've seen how excessive kindness, left unchecked, quietly reshapes the mind, buries desires, and erodes self-respect. We've seen the silent cost, invisibility, resentment, and the slow disappearance of identity. But there is a path forward, a path few men truly take, because it demands courage, honesty, and relentless self-awareness. A man who chooses himself is not selfish. He is deliberate. He is aware that every yes has a cost and every no has a purpose. He understands that kindness without boundaries is not virtue. It is surrender. And he knows that strength without conscience is not nobility. It is tyranny. Imagine a life lived this way, a life where giving is intentional, presence is measured, and silence is chosen, not imposed. A life where respect is neither demanded nor assumed, but earned, first from oneself, then from the world. This is the life Nietzsche described when he wrote, "The noble soul has reverence for itself." Reverence is not arrogance. Reverence is the recognition that a man's time, energy, and voice are finite. It is the acknowledgement that he cannot pour from an empty cup. That self-respect is the foundation of all meaningful action, and that true influence begins internally. The man who embraces this truth does not vanish in the presence of others. He does not dissolve himself to prevent discomfort, nor does he withhold his essence to avoid conflict. Instead, he moves through the world with deliberate force. His kindness becomes a choice, not a habit. His patience becomes strength, not resignation. His generosity becomes a reflection of abundance, not a plea for approval. Society will test him. Life will ask for sacrifices he is not willing to make. Friends, colleagues, and even loved ones may resist the change. They will notice the boundaries, challenge the limits, and sometimes misunderstand firmness for arrogance or detachment. This is natural. The old patterns are powerful. They were learned over years of silent compliance. But every time a man chooses himself over automatic self-erasure, he strengthens his inner authority. Every act of deliberate self-respect rewrites decades of conditioning. Every moment he refuses to disappear reinforces the integrity of his presence. And here is the paradox. By choosing himself, he does not lose kindness. He amplifies it. By honoring his own limits, he commands respect from the world. By asserting his boundaries, he models the power of integrity. By living deliberately, he becomes magnetic, not because he is selfish, but because he is whole. The man who chooses himself is no longer invisible. He is no longer quietly shrinking. He does not ask for recognition, but he cannot be ignored. He does not seek validation, but he naturally draws respect. His relationships deepen, not because he sacrifices for others, but because he is authentic, unwavering, and self-aware. This is the final lesson Nietzsche offers. A man cannot truly give, love, or lead until he first reclaims the life that belongs to him. Kindness is not the absence of boundaries. Strength is not cruelty. Virtue is not submission. A man who disappears for the comfort of others is not good, he is lost. A man who sacrifices himself to avoid conflict is not noble. He is incomplete. A man who is too kind for his own survival is not admired. He is forgotten. But the man who chooses himself becomes unforgettable. He is the one whose presence is felt. He is the one whose words carry weight. He is the one whose life is fully lived. And this is not a call to arrogance, nor a justification for selfishness. It is a call to authenticity, courage, and deliberate self-respect. Because in the end, the greatest kindness a man can offer the world is not his silent compliance. It is the fullness of himself. It is the strength to give from a place of abundance, not depletion. It is the courage to honor his soul above expectation, obligation, or fleeting approval. The danger of disappearing fades the moment a man refuses to vanish. The freedom he gains is permanent. The respect he commands is real. And the life he builds is fully, unshakably his own. This is the man Nietzsche wanted every man to see. Not weak, not selfless, to the point of annihilation, but fully present, fully alive, fully himself. And this is the ultimate truth. No one can give what they do not have. Reclaim yourself and everything else. Respect, love, influence, purpose follows naturally.